Matthew Heberbrand, 403 Heisley Park Lane. I'm grateful that the Ohio Attorney General released its letter from a couple years ago confirming that the investigation into the May 4th, 2021 alleged hack was closed, but unfortunately that letter raises more questions than it answers. We know that that investigation has been closed and that the Ohio Attorney General didn't have enough evidence to bring forward any case, but we still don't have any answers. And I want to be clear, I'm not accusing anyone of anything. I'm trying to get the answers, and if there's any frustration that comes forth, it's because I, like many of our fellow citizens, are frustrated at politicians at all levels of government who make promises to give answers and never give them, when there are crimes that are investigated, but then charges are never brought and we never get an answer to what happened. And in this case, in November of 2021, at one of these meetings, Commissioner Hamercheck promised to give us the answers. And it is right here.
Investigating. I think it's vitally important to get the facts right and to report accurate information. As soon as we are finished gathering and verifying the appropriate materials, I'll share the information with the residents of Lake County and any elected official or agency interested and the news media.
Those are your words, Commissioner Hamercheck. You promised to answer the questions. So please, answer the questions. Why was your badge used the night of May 4th, 2021? Who had it? You never reported it lost or stolen. You used it the day before. You used it the day after. Who had it? Why was it used that day? What happened that evening? And Commissioners Rogovich, Commissioners Plechnik, if Commissioner Hamercheck refuses to answer those questions, again, you guys act together as a board. You are jointly responsible for maintaining the integrity of this building, of this property. I'm asking you to ask him and to take some action to ensure to our voters, voting starts in 1 week. People on both sides of the aisle do not trust each other, do not trust our elected officials, are worried that our elections aren't going to be reported properly. They need to know going into this election that our election system is secure and that no one will be trying to change our election results for either side. Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris West Leroy, missed you last week, Boss Plechnik. Had to go to the place they used to call Fort Benning to witness my 18-year-old son graduate from infantry basic. I did stop at this little town in North Carolina on the way home. Picked up another thumb drive. Seems like people there have a lot to say. Mr. Heberbrand mentioned people don't trust our elected officials. Well, let me put this forth as one of the reasons why they shouldn't. This is a conversation with you directing Rodney Shelton and how to pull the wool over the other two commissioners' eyes and get $30,000 to fund your dog commercial campaign.
Talking about it. I just want to make it matter of fact, and I can tell you, I already know the commissioners will be supportive of it, so we don't need to have a long justification in it. Okay. But basically, you're going to say mostly what you're saying, but just matter of factly. You know, the dog warden's office believes that a stronger start to the ad this time would be beneficial because it's a new ad. Here are the numbers we propose. Done. And I think we'll be able to turn that around very quickly. Okay, very.
That's what you had to say in 2022. Now let's listen to what you had to say in 2024, when it looked like it might cause problems for you.
Came up.
Why would you prefer to say nothing? What are you hiding? It's pretty clear that you're trying to direct Rodney Shelton in 2022 to do what you want, and then in 2024 you want to put words in his mouth as to what he's to say to cover for the fact. In fact, in that conversation, you went over that same discussion 6 times, trying to put words in his mouth. That seems like you're trying to influence a potential
Thank you,
witness
Mr.
in a
Weiss.
criminal investigation.
Thank you so much,
We'll see
Mr.
you next
Weiss.
week, boss.
Thank you, Mr. Weiss.
Brian Kolkowski, Leroy, Ohio. Last week at the commissioners' meeting, the use of Mr. Hammercheck's key card to provide access to a computer port in the Lake County servers was called by implication fake news. Mr. Hammercheck's key card was used on May 4th, election night, on a number of times, and a non-county computer was provided access to a computer port in the Lake County servers from these secured locations. The Ohio Attorney General's Special Prosecutions Branch declined to prosecute, but this time it is not clear why this was done. A public records request was made to the Ohio Attorney General, and at this time I have been informed they are gathering and reviewing the documents to meet this request. The computer that was used to access the Lake County servers is likely the computer that was used to illegally access government servers in Mesa, Colorado. A government official was convicted of 7 felonies in August of this year related to crimes that were committed related to access that was provided in Colorado. Are these coincidental? Possibly, but data from this access to the Lake County servers were presented at the cyber conference in Michigan, along with the data obtained in Mesa, Colorado. The question we need to ask is, what are the differences? Mr. Hammercheck publicly promised to provide an explanation almost 3 years ago. Perhaps he forgot. Nothing takes away from the fact that someone with access to Mr. Hammercheck's key card may have provided access to the local Lake County servers on May 4th. Mr. Hammercheck, as commissioner, operates on a board and has no individual powers unless that board has given him those powers. As such, any use of the Lake County servers would at a minimum raise ethics questions as to the improper use of public property. There were further questions raised as to whether other Lake County elected officials were involved. Are they willing to come forward? Again, I hope Mr. Hammercheck reconsiders his unwillingness to provide the public with a reasonable response about what he knows, as he promised almost 3 years ago. We as Republicans cannot question issues of election integrity unless we are transparent about our own actions in elected office. Again, I ask Mr. Hammercheck, when will you tell the public honestly of all the details you were aware of related to this incident, and hopefully allow the public to ask questions to you in response? Eventually, through public records, we will hopefully learn. You can save everyone time by honestly explaining all the details you are aware of. Thank you.
Thank you. I know that, once again, these meetings are difficult, but we're called by the people to acquit ourselves well. And attacking those who attack us, repaying evil with evil, is not the way. I have heard from one of my constituents, 2 of my constituents today, that they want an answer to a very simple question. One of the commissioner's badges was used to access our offices on the night of an election. And that particular commissioner's badge was used to access that particular commissioner's office. And according to our IT department and all public reports, that computer was plugged into the data port in that same office. There are many people who are rightly concerned about this. They don't have to know or accuse someone of a crime being committed to be concerned that a foreign computer would be plugged in to a county office in the appearance of attempting to hack the Board of Elections. And I think we need to be respectful of those who are concerned. I think it is fair to say that a majority of Americans are concerned with election integrity today, and to poo-poo it as not important, I don't think that's fair to those who are asking legitimate questions. It's obviously up to individual commissioners to decide how they respond to the public. But I would remember, and I would hope that we would all remember, that we adopt rules for the commission every year even if members of the public may not follow those rules, the collegiality that we commit to is something that we should remember as we address members of the public.
You need to call Susan. Hi. Sorry, that was hospice calling, if anybody's wondering why I'm taking a phone call during this dissertation. Back to you, Professor. I'm sorry, President.
Thank you, Mr. Commissioner. I'm just asking that we all try a little harder to show care and concern for one another, including the people with whom we disagree. It's very easy to take offense. It is harder to be respectful, and we are called as commissioners to be respectful of the public who join us. That doesn't mean we agree with them, and sometimes we are treated unfairly, but we should not respond with hatred. And we should recognize that members of the public are frustrated when questions have been asked for months and they have not been answered. In fairness, Mr. Hamercheck, you have made statements, and you've made the same statements every meeting, but you have never answered the question who used your ID badge to enter your office and plug a computer into your data port that is reportedly involved in crimes in Colorado. You've never answered the question of whether you were the person who used that badge, whether you provided your badge to someone else. It's up to you whether you answer that question, but it's gaslighting to say that you've answered the question when you simply have ignored it. And it's your prerogative to ignore it, and you may have good reason to. But in fairness to those asking the question, you have not answered it, sir. And I am deeply concerned that threatening members of the public, particularly those who have applied for a position, could put us in a point of liability in the future. I would hate for someone to sue the county feeling that they were not given a fair application and interview process because a political figure had a political issue with them. We need to treat everyone equally and respect their free speech right as they come before us, even if we strenuously disagree with it. The First Amendment only matters if we protect the speech we disagree with. Any further old business?
I trust, Mr. President, I can respond to your statements.
Yes, Mr. Commissioner.
So I will refer, because I'm a big timeline guy, back to in the beginning when Prosecutor Colson first brought this to the attention of this board. He used words to the effect of, "There is nothing to this." And his words were proven true. You are asking a response to defective questions from no substance that are nothing more. And as a law professor, and I believe you are admitted to practice law in the state of New York, you're exceptionally schooled into the nuances of law. You are asking, and others are asking, questions that arise from a false premise. You are asking that a negative be proven. You are masterful at debate. And
Mr. Commissioner, I must interject. It is a factual question. Who used your ID badge to enter your office and plug a laptop into your office's data port? That is a factual question, and you might say it is meaningless, it has nothing to do with any crime having been committed. Fair enough. You've nonetheless been asked a factual question, and while you may view that question as meaningless or defective, it is a question of fact who used your ID badge multiple times to enter and exit your office that night. And many, from the Washington Post to law enforcement, have asked many questions about this issue. So to say that it is insignificant, it strains credulity to most. But once again, it is your opinion, and you're entitled to it, sir. I would simply say, you've been asked a factual question, even if you might deem it to be meaningless, defective, unimportant, fair enough, then it should be nothing for you to answer it and satisfy the public's curiosity so this board can move past that controversy. But it's up to you whether or not to answer the question. I just think it is fundamentally unfair to personally attack members of the public who are asking you a factual question. If it's so unimportant, just answer their question and move on. And if you choose not to, fair enough, but don't pretend that you have or use faux outrage to that effect. It may or may not be an important answer from your perspective, but obviously it's important to members of the public who are asking you this question every meeting. So in fairness to them and in fairness to honesty, it doesn't matter if you think the question is significant. It is a factual question, sir.
Of all the words you used, you only used one correctly, and that being defective. Your belief is not required for something to be true. Thank you, sir.